My experience in helping hundreds of chiropractors grow their practices and in owning 8 practices myself is that people underestimate just how much a bad hire can cost you. It takes months or weeks to find the right CV that you invite to an interview. Then you interview that person. This takes time. Group interview, individual interviews. We're already talking 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 days, a month of time invested in this. You should understand that time is money, and this is a massive loss of resource in the business. Then you invite that person to an interview process, then you hire the person. You're already weeks in. Before, you've probably made the biggest mistake, which you hire the wrong person. But the wrong person you don't find out immediately. You usually find out the wrong person after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. You spent the first 3 months scripting, processing, training. In all that time, you're not training other people, you're taking your eye off the ball in other areas, you're not focusing on marketing, etc. That has cost you tens of thousands of dollars, maybe not in money, but in lost productivity. I've seen it happen more times than I can remember. Here's exactly how to never make that mistake again, for the most part. Here's how practices are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars by ineffectively hiring. So here's the step-by-step process of how to hire effectively. Now, I'm not saying that I don't get it wrong. I do get it wrong at times, but I will tell you that I get it wrong a lot less than other people because I take people through a step-by-step process. So if you're gonna hire people in the practice, foolproof, there's no such thing, but a close enough to foolproof way to minimizes the chance of you really effing this up. So step number 1 is have core values. So core values are a set of anywhere from 3 to 7 rules or statements that help people very quickly see what it is you are and what it is you're not. It becomes the policeman and the filter with which people decide to join your mission or business. So there's always about 6 core values that lets people very quickly know, here's the rules that this business runs by. Things like we play at 100%, we have the same amount of energy for the last patient of the day as the first patient of the day, we praise each other, no blame, justification, denial, and a few other ones really help you guide the principles in the business. Now, why this is important for the hiring process, many of the textbooks and business books and business Bibles say you should hire, fire, and reward according to your core values. You can't even consider hiring another person if you don't have a set of core values. How are you going to set up a scenario where you're only letting the right people on the bus? So step number 1, actually have core values. If you want more help with this, in the comments section, we'll have a breakdown of our proven process that tells you how to set up your core values. Step number 2, interview and group interview. Part of the process I'm skipping through a little bit is you're going to put out a job interview, you're going to advertise for someone. And you don't need that much help with this because in today's day and age with AI, you're just going to ask ChatGPT to write a job spec for you and you're going to post it online. So once you've posted that job advert, you're going to get a ton of people applying. Here's what you got to do. You could add a filter in there that is a task for them to do in the interview process. And this does filter out some time wasters because some people don't even read it. They're applying for so many and they don't do the task, like submit a video telling me about the 3 reasons you think you'd be suitable for the position. That filters out a lot of people. What I typically do is get a team member to go through the CVs and then take a short list, and then we invite them to short list either to a group interview and we tell them what it is, what it isn't, those type of things, let them self-select or deselect, or typically someone just gives them a quick call and does a telephone interview. From that, we then do the next step. Number 3 is we get them to observe. We do this for pretty much any position in a practice, whether it's at the front desk or whether it's an associate. For me personally, I think the biggest mistake people make in this section is they oversell. You're not selling. You're not trying to sell why you are a great place to work. Not in this interview. This is a process for them to simply observe. If you need to greet them with a massive amount of energy for them to even come and work there, it's going to be a tough relationship long term. I'll tell you why. One of my greatest mentors, Dan Kennedy, said one of the hardest people to work with on a day-to-day basis is someone that needs constant reassurance. But if you look at the interview process, if they walked in and you had to see if they're okay and speak to them the whole time, you're often leaning yourself towards working with those people more. So my experience is get them to observe, get them to stand in a certain place at the front desk and just tell them that they're there observing. Don't wait on every demand. It's like that's their job. For that process is just observe. At the end of the observation process, all you're going to do is take a few minutes and you're going to ask them first, how do they enjoy it? And get them to talk. There's an old saying that says if you give someone enough rope, they often hang themselves. And we've had this many times where people go like, wow, it was busy, right? How are people coping? And that's like, those are red flags, right? Those are red flags. Or they might go, wow, the energy was amazing in here. I wasn't expecting that. That's really intriguing. Then those are green flags, but they will inevitably give you some red flags and green flags. They may say, we've had this before. People be like, wow, does Mary stand all day like that? Red flag. They will show you red flags and green flags throughout that process. Once they've spoken a little bit, I will simply ask them to read the core values to me. This is a process that feels somewhat forced, this, to get them to read it to me, but it's important. Just get them, see if they take instructions, see if they direct them, see if they are humble enough to do this. So I often get them to read it to me. Again, there's going to be red flags and green flags all over the place, but I'll say, can you just read me the core values quickly? And then I'd ask them just to dive a bit deeper on each one. We're like, what does that mean for you? What does early on time mean for you? What does played 100% mean for you? So ask them some questions about the core values, and you're looking for green flags and red flags here. Even if you don't want to dive into each one individually, at the end of them reading the core values, just simply say to them, hey, any thoughts, fears, concerns, and just listen. We once had an interview for the front desk, stop and say, actually, I wanted to ask one more question. That core value that says energy, how important is that? Obviously, I said very important, and to which they said, well, I just want to be honest, I struggle with energy a little bit. Red flag. And then I said, well, what do you think we should do? And she said, oh, maybe I'm not a right fit. And I said, you're probably right. So that's what happens when you have core values. That becomes the policeman. If we do this process, we've already filtered out some people or let people know that which we are and that's what we're not. Now, one more thing in this interview process. A little golden nugget for you is I like to add in a little part of my interview process where I try to make people run away. This is not about selling, right? We want to let people know our quirkiness, and I say, air your dirty laundry as quickly as possible. We've all got issues or challenges we have as business owners, things we're not good at, that we want to let the person know immediately so that when they join us, there wasn't a surprise. Look, we want our employees to be happy, right? And for them to be happy, they need to know more about what they're getting themselves in for. You don't want to be surprised by things you didn't know about them as much as possible. And equally, they don't want to be surprised by things that you're just springing on them prior to the process. So often, if you work in my leadership team, I work across multiple time zones. I live in America currently at the time of filming this. I have businesses in the UK and Europe and America. So if you work for me, the chances are that even if I'm going to mess up, I'm probably going to text you at 10 o'clock at night at least once or twice a week. So I let them know before they come work for me, I'm going to do this. I respect you if that's a challenge for you. If you're someone who wants to leave work and not get messaged after 5, you definitely don't want to come work for me. It's impossible for me not to do it. I just work across so many time zones. I've got some people in Malaysia and Pakistan and India and UK and East Coast of America. So you're definitely going to get messages at a weird time for me. And often people go, actually, I'm the type of person that likes to not receive messages from work after 5. I find that very stressful, and I respect that. But that means that they must not come work for me because they're not going to be happy. And if they're not happy, I don't get the most out of them. When it comes to CAs, I used to say things like, do you have good childcare, etc. And they may say like, well, I saw that the shift ends at 6:30, to which I would explain, no, it ends, we stop seeing patients at 6:30, but typically we can be in here an hour afterwards doing admin, we're doing huddles afterwards, etc. So I wouldn't bank on getting home before 7:30, 8. Now that may be a problem for them, and I'd rather them know that before they take the job. Okay, it's the same for associates. It's like, hey, one of the things we notice with associates that struggle is they never leave the practice. So if you look at this core value, which is played 100%, for us, that means you have to show up to 1 community event a week. How's that feel? How's that sound to you? I heard that, I don't know if I like that or whatever, and then you have the conversation. So air your dirty laundry. Every job is hard stuff. Talk about it so that they understand what they're getting in for before they take the job. Hey, if this is helping you with how to hire and grow your practice, I'd ask you a big favor. It'd mean the world to me. If you just hit the subscribe button, that means it shows this in front of more chiropractors, and if we can help more chiropractors, it'll help more people in their community. So do me a big favor and just hit subscribe, and mean the world to me. Once you've done all your questions, once you've been through the core values, once you've asked many thoughts, fears, and concerns, last part of this point is that you just want to simply say to them, we've got a few interviews, a few more candidates to consider. I'll let you know in the next 72 hours what our decision was. Another little tip that I learned from a mentor of mine is if you say, I'll get back to you in 48 hours, sometimes people purposely don't get back to them in the time they said. I've done this many times. I won't get back to them in 48 hours. I will go over that time. The reason for that is we want to sometimes test how people respond to adversity. The truth of the matter is, as an employee, I'm going to mess up. I'm 100% going to mess up. I'm going to make mistakes. But I want to see how the person responds. I did this once to a group of interviewees, and I said I'd get back to them in 24 hours or 48 hours, and I didn't, on purpose. And I got a scathing email calling me every name under the sun from one of the candidates because I never got them back to them in 40 hours. They wrote about how they're going to leave reviews, what a joke I am, what a joke the business is. I ask you, did I or did I not dodge a bullet? If that's how they responded because I didn't get back to them hours within what I said I would get back to them, they would have responded that way the next time I messed up or the first time I messed up once a relationship started. So sometimes it's okay to challenge them before they work for you to see their character and how they respond. That's a little golden nugget for you. So no matter what, do not offer them position at the end of that interview process. Always say to them, I'll get back to you in a certain period of time, and that'll bring us to the next point. The fourth stage, which is second interview and offer. Once you had a good feeling from a few candidates, there's going to be one or two that you want to hire or bring back. So this is where you invite them back to a second interview. You can get them to observe again in the practice, but for me, this is just kind of sealing the deal. Once I've looked at all the candidates, I've spoken to my team about which ones they think are the strong candidates. Always do this because ultimately it's the team that has to work more with the person than me. So they got to be able to work with the people. So I really lean heavily on my team to like, what did you think? What did you think? What did you think? And we go backward on the pros and cons. If I do have an inkling that I'm going to hire them, I invite sometimes one person back for a second interview, and then in the interview just ask them a few more questions, ask them how they enjoyed the first process, dig a little bit deeper, and if there are no red flags in the questioning process, I will actually offer a position. Now, there's a couple questions I like to ask, either at the first interview or this interview, but one of them is, where would you like to be in 10 years time? Or where would you like to be in 5 years time? Or what's the dream? What's the goal? And I caveat that by saying, and don't say here. You know, for a lot of people that I'm just a stepping stone in many of their journeys, I like to find out what's the dream, what's the goal? And I say to them, what's the dream, what's the goal? Where do you want to be in 5 years time? And don't say here. You're not allowed to say here. And I get to ask them these questions and find out more about them. And they're like, I want to open an agency, or I'd like to be an entrepreneur, or I'd like to just work in a great company. And whatever it is, I'd like to find out. I just like to find that question out a bit more. I also would like to sometimes ask, every job has hard things about it. What's one thing for you that might be hard about this job that you foresee? And I might say customer service, or dealing with people, or being on my feet all day, or getting home late at night. And that might get me to ask more questions. If she said, or he said late at night a few times because of our shifts, then I might know there's probably a little bit more under the surface there. And I might ask a few more questions, like, why is that a big challenge for you? And they may say, we've had this before. Someone might say, well, I play football 3 nights a week, but I wanted to talk to you about that. Would you have any leeway on what nights I work? Now, that might be a huge red flag for me, because if I do it for one person, I'm going to do it for everyone, right? But can you see how those processes, I wouldn't let it go. I ask deeper questions about that, because I want them to be happy. And if they're happy, we have a better relationship. I'd normally ask essentially a test close question. Did you think this is a place, after everything we discussed, do you think this is a place you could be happy? And then if they say yes, I'd offer them the job normally. I would then go on and say, well, based on that, I'd like to offer you the position. I'm going to send you the contract and the terms this afternoon or tomorrow morning, and I'd like you just to get back to me in 48 hours. Does this sound fair? And they say yes or no, and then off they go. Now, sometimes they're just like, yes, I'll just take it. I'll often say to them, like, no, listen, go read the contract. Again, I want them to know what they're getting themselves in for. Go read the contract and see if you're happy with it, and then get back to me about your thoughts, fears, concerns. And then we do have other candidates. So if you could just let me know as soon as possible, that lets me know whether I can tell other candidates that I filled the position, and we were delighted to work with you. And wherever you end up, you're going to add huge value. That's my 4-step process about to hire the right person. If you go through those processes, start with the core values, you have less chance of making a mess of this. Not no chance, less chance. I still make a mess of it. If you're going to hire 50 people in the next 5 years, if you just do this 10% better, it's worth $1 million for you, I'm telling you. So follow that process, and you're going to have a much better chance of having success with the hiring process.